Hey guys, Jared here. Thanks for reading the review by my Edge of Time. I'm not going to go back into all that stuff and say what I've already said because I've already said it. Read the review. But one thing I wanted to just do a little rant on really isn't that big of a deal, and thought I should do this in a video because you can't really rant. I guess you can, but you can't rant as well in a post as you can in a video. So one of the big things that kept going back and forth between Peter Parker and Miguel, I don't remember his last name, but basically Amazing Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2099, is there was a cultural difference. So, for example, the one I remember specifically, but there were several of them, about half a dozen or so comments where Peter Parker would say something, and Amazing Spider-Man would say something, and Spider-Man from 2099 would be like, well, okay, I don't know what that is, I'm way in the future kind of thing, was the concept. And one of them was Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, made a comment about a toaster, and the future Spider-Man was like, okay, if you say so, I don't know what a toaster is. And at first I was like, oh, that's funny, because the time difference. But then I started thinking about it, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, because maybe back in the 60s or 70s or even 80s, I don't know, whenever they first came up with 2099, that was kind of a far way off. But that's not really that far from now. 2099, my kids will be around, I don't know how old I'll be, or I may even be around, I'll be some old dude, but whatever. My kids are gonna be around in 80 or 2099. It's not even a generation or just one generation off. So I'm like, how are they gonna forget all this kind of stuff? So even if the future Spider-Man, say he's about 40, that puts him in the middle of the century. So we're talking about only 50 some odd years from now. You tell me that in 50 to 60 years from now, they're going to completely, technology and everything is going to change so much that people don't remember what a toaster is anymore. So I was like, that doesn't really seem to make sense. So you're talking about, it's basically my grandkids. Maybe. Okay, because if you look at my grandpa, to me, technology has greatly changed versus technology is exponential. Again, this doesn't really matter, but it has nothing to do with the gameplay, but I just really have a hard time believing that people in 2099 are not going to understand our common technology. They're not going to understand what a toaster was. Because, well, first off, a toaster, look how old it is. If you're talking about, however many, less than 100 years in the future. I mean, we had toasters 50 years ago. I don't really expect, you get what I'm saying? Okay, you understand me? For example, we may not have stuff another kind of thing, let's do time-wise, telegraphs, we don't have telegraphs anymore. Those are close to 100 years old. We still know what they are. We don't go, we don't have a wormhole and we're talking to a cowboy or something, and he's like, oh yeah, well, I could send you a message on a telegraph, and we're like, yeah, sure, what does that mean? Can my cell phone get it? We still remember that. In fact, funny story, I had a friend who worked at a post office, and he actually had a lady come in and ask if they did telegraph service, and he was like, no, this is 2010, at the time it was 2010, he's like, fax, email, we have that kind of stuff, and she's like, oh, well, I've been calling and going around everywhere, and no one has telegraph service anymore. He's like, hello, lady. So, someone's still trying to use it. So that's my point, is even if we have a new way to toast our bread, and we no longer have toasters, pretty sure that Spider-Man 2099 would at least know what a toaster was. That's all I'm saying. He said there was probably 4 to maybe even as many as 6 of these references, and I was like, how did that get by them? Because again, I know the concept is so far in the future, but not so much anymore. So you go to the movie, well, now almost even blockbusters are still around. But I remember I'd go through, in the early 2000s, you'd find movies set in the future, and it's the future world of 1984. I'm like, dude, I was born in '84. So that kind of thing, I just thought that was a little weird that Activision and the companies that worked on it let that get by. The fact that it doesn't make sense. But yeah, other than that, great game. You read the review, so check it out for yourselves, and thanks for reading and watching.